Welcome to the show. It is Thursday, or it is Wednesday. I got a day ahead of myself. Yeah. It is Wednesday. Great to have you with us here today, whether it's Wednesday, Thursday, whatever it is. The week has gone fairly fast, but not that fast as we keep counting down to the start of Notre Dame football, the 2026 season. We've got 18 days until the Irish open things up at Lambeau Field against the Wisconsin Badgers. Sports Radio WSBT, of course, your home for all Notre Dame football games, home, away, neutral, playoffs, whatever it happens to be. We've got a busy show today. That's kind of probably a cliche thing to say in this line of work, but we're going to start with some Notre Dame football recruiting with Bryan Driskell, and then Amari Byles, freshman forward with the Notre Dame women's basketball team, will be on with me. One of Bryan's favorites.
You brought her on the day that I'm on. You know, that's my sleeper pick for being a standout in that class.
Matched it up just right. That's right. She'll be on a little bit later this hour, and then Vince will be in the 6 o'clock hour for some more Notre Dame topics, rapid fire, and all that. How are you today, Bryan?
I'm doing great, man. Yeah, I'm doing a lot better than I was a little bit ago. I had surgery today, so.
Oh, you did? What?
Yeah, I had issues, like they couldn't go into my elbow, so then they had to go through my hand, and I just a oral surgery. It's
is this kind of the thing that you've been dealing with?
It's like a process. I got to go in 4 different times to have work done on it. It's a bummer, but
that's I wouldn't even say it. You're looking good. You're looking good.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Let's just say
if
that.
I just pass out in the middle of the show, you'll know what's going on. That's why
you
Trevor and
Sean
did the show today.
And
they did it. Yeah, a little quieter. I'm still going to talk. I probably talked during the whole surgery, even though I was unconscious. I should probably ask, but you know how I roll, Sean.
That's right. Is it just me, or have this last couple of weeks since camp started, has it been sort of like the fast pass at Disney? You know, like we've just sort of scooted these last couple of weeks. I do too. It's been great after, we all know what July is like in our world. So
yes. Oh yes. No, it's been good. I had a feeling camp was going to go by super slow just because we have such little, so little access to it. But no, it's actually been pretty good. It's actually gone by quick. And I guess that's the good thing when we're as much content as we're putting out in the magazine and all the different things that we did. I went on the Always Talking Ball podcast last night, and there's 2 more segments that they're going to have. So you're going to find this a little surprising, Sean, but I had a lot to say on that show, so they're going to cut it into different segments.
That never happens.
No, I'm very precise and concise. Guy's name Tyler and Lance. Lance is an Alabama fan. Tyler's a Notre Dame fan, but they do a great job. They do a really good job. So I always enjoy going on with those guys. So if you're not subscribed, subscribe. Always Talking Ball. They have a podcast and a YouTube channel, so definitely check it out.
All right, I have to keep an eye out for that. You can find.
Got to support those other creators, man. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's it's a great business in the world of college football, especially getting to where we're going into right now. Let me ask you this before we talk some recruiting on the camp topic. I mean, it's been a relatively quiet camp, like you said. We haven't had a ton of access. We had one full. We had a handful of partial first 25 minutes plus stretching, type practice viewings. But even that, based on things, that we saw, things that we're hearing and everything else, it's been pretty quiet, it seems like. Do you have where we are right now as they get ready to transition into Wisconsin prep here very soon? Do you have it any overriding questions that you have, any red flags, anything like that?
I won't say any red flags. I mean, obviously there are still some things that we don't know about this team that we maybe could have found out during fall camp. We saw the Micah Gilbert play last week where he made that tremendous play over top of DJ McKinney and Briante Johnson, but he's an important player for Notre Dame. We talked about him on our show yesterday. They really need him to step up, and hopefully that one clip that we saw of him is indicative of what he's doing all fall camp. But the only thing I could really say, a couple things I've heard. Defensive ends are really playing at a high level. There's a lot of excitement about the jumps that the two veterans have made, and also just the growth that Keon Keeley has made.
Mhm.
Not just from, obviously Charlie Partridge has some comments about that, but then also I'm also hearing that from my sources. Armo Mukum, I've heard, is having a great camp so far, which is really good to hear.
Yep.
And then there's been some, I'm sure we'll get some official words, so I won't say specifically who. I believe the starters are all good, but I have heard there's been some injuries on the offensive line beyond what we already know about. So don't know
Okay.
the severity of those, but the depth of the offensive line is being tested a little bit, but from what I understand, it's not any starters. So yeah, and the freshman class I've also been told is really impressed, which we kind of expected, Sean. We've talked about them on the show.
Yep.
Bubba Frazier. We saw that clip. Actually, Notre Dame put an Instagram clip out there the other day where they showed Bubba catching a third down pass from C.J. Carr against the first team defense and just outrunning the team up the sideline for a big play, which is what
That's,
you like to see a lot more of him. Yeah, so it's been
I
good
mean,
so
Mike
far.
Mike Denbrock said, talked about him, like the speed that he's got. He's got a gear
Yeah,
that's
him and
not.
Braden Robinson just have completely different speed than everybody else. And Braden would be a lot further along, but obviously he missed the spring because of the knee injury he suffered at Red
Right.
Oak his senior year. But he's one of those guys you watch him play. It was funny, Sean. We were watching them do kick return in one of these practices, and they're going maybe half quarter speed, maybe 60% speed because they're not actually working on the full return. They're working on like understand they were explaining the blocking, like, hey, here's how we're blocking this return, and trying to get them like take a proper angle and then cut off of the angle and all that. So they were going maybe 50 to 60% full speed. And even then, Braden Robinson just like, oh man, his 60% is like some dudes wish they could run that fast, much less the 60%. So, that was something that we'll talk a little recruiting today, but like that's something that's been a very clear point of emphasis from Mike Denbrock since he got here is I want more speed in the playmakers areas, so that
Yeah.
you look at the two tight ends they got last year in the 26 class, Ian Premer, Preston Frizzell. What can they both do? Run. They're fast. They can make plays. You look at Bubba Frazier. You look at Braden Robinson, even Caden Finley to a degree. Dylan Faison, outstanding athlete. He's had a really nice fall camp. And then, of course, you look at Julius Jones Jr., who's got big-time playmaking ability in the 27 class, and that's clearly been a point of emphasis. And I would imagine coaching Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas for a couple years at LSU made Mike Dunbrock say, I'm going to give me some more of those guys.
I need some of that.
That's
Yeah,
what they're
I like
certainly
some of that.
working on. Yeah, that's
Yep.
what they're working on.
Exactly. All right, so we'll hear from Marcus Freeman on Friday, like you said. Kind of get some updates on where some different things stand, the status of different guys, just in terms of health and stuff like that. So that's coming up Friday afternoon, Marcus Freeman's press conference, and of course we'll have reaction to it on this show. Brian will have reaction to it on his show, and you can check out the editorial comment at irishbreakdown.com or boards.irishbreakdown.com. Everything you said just emphasizes, of course, the importance of recruiting. And, we like for a couple, 2-3 months, whatever it was, we obviously spent a lot of time talking about the 2027 class with all the great commitments they were getting there. And now it's kind of already on to the 2028 class. They've got 3 commitments in that cycle so far. They've got edge rusher. Is it Darian or Darian Prescott?
Darian
Prescott.
Prescott. Big time player.
Yeah, big time edge. Defensive back Andre Jones, brother of Julius Jones Jr., and then kicker Owen Davies. That is it for 2028 so far. Three quality guys, but that's it's they're really just again
They
putting
had another guy for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Let's start with him. Not necessarily with him, but that position, because Trey Tagliafieri, the quarterback, you're exactly right. It's like 5 minutes, boom, he's off to Oklahoma now after he'd committed to Notre Dame. They obviously have Grubbs and Teddy Gerard, in this current freshman class. They've got Champ Mons, who was going to be a 2028, but he reclassified, so he'll be coming in next year.
And looked good in his first scrimmage of the year. He looked real good.
Yes. I mean, and that's kind of what you expect from a guy like Champ Mons.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at what they've already got and what's coming with Mons next year, how high of a priority is the quarterback position in 2028?
I think it's quarterback to me, especially in this era of a guy can transfer whenever he wants, how often he wants, I think is important, right? And you have to at least, I would love it if Noah Grubbs and Teddy Gerard both stayed at Notre Dame for 4 years, no matter who starts between the two of them. And if Champ came in and starts it, they still both stay. But that's also not reality. And so you always have to be prepared for that eventuality of a guy leaving. And so it's always important to get a quarterback every year. The type of quarterback you're going to get is going to be determined by, to a degree, what you got in the previous year's class. And this it's interesting because you talked about the Trey Tagliaferri. There were really four guys at the outset of this process that Notre Dame really liked a quarterback. They offered three guys early. They offered Kingston Preyear, Neiman Lawrence, and Lucas Prock. They offered those four. Tagliaferri was the last of those offers. The other three were committed first. And there was a time when Notre Dame was in a pretty good position with all of them. Kingston Preyear actually was a silent commitment to Notre Dame for a little bit, and then obviously he backed off that, and I think there's a lot of reasons for that. He's now committed to Alabama, but they're all now committed elsewhere, and a lot of the top quarterbacks in the country are committed elsewhere. Ohio State just got a big time quarterback pickup, and so I think right now for Notre Dame, it's like, hey, take a deep breath. Let's let this board recalibrate. Let's kind of see how the season shakes out. Let's see if there's any guys that maybe emerge. Maybe there's some sleepers. Maybe try to flip a guy down the road, and not get too ahead of it. I also think what they're doing, talking to a couple people, trying to get this 100% confirmed. But I've at least talked to enough people that I feel like this is part of it. Is with the way quarterbacks are reclassifying now. If you think about it, Notre Dame's done that now 2 years in a row. There's some 29 kids that I think Notre Dame likes that they're seeing how they develop this season. How do they physically mature? How does their games grow? And then maybe get those guys to reclassify to 2028 after their sophomore seasons, kind of like what they did with Champ Mons. So I think that's in the cards as well.
The 2029s, would they be starting their sophomore season in high school?
Correct.
Right now?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, because like Champ Mons finished his sophomore year last year, then reclassified. So he's basically skipping his junior year, and he'll be a senior this year.
Right. Okay. All right. So
it's confusing.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's just a proliferation of guys reclassifying. You got the two quarterbacks that there are other guys on the defensive side of the ball, and guys obviously around the country who have done it as well. I mean, everyone wants to get there and get their college career started, I guess. So
understandable.
Great for them.
In the NIL era, it certainly,
that's right.
It certainly makes sense.
It's that much quicker. You can start cashing checks. Yep, that's absolutely right. Okay, so in terms of the rest of the 2028 class, let's stick with the offensive side of the ball. What's maybe at the top of the list in terms of offensive needs, as you kind of shuffle through when you're, we always talk about stacking classes and all that kind of stuff. So getting into 2028, what do you see as some of the top offensive needs or the top?
There's obviously, you want to get good players every year, right? I mean, that's a given. You want to land top players every year. But when I look at figuring out the quarterback situation, there's really two positions that are very important for me. And it's not so much that they don't have good players there now. It's just it's really a twofold thing. So when I look at the receiver, that's obviously a big need for me in this class. Not so much numbers, because Notre Dame's in a position where they have a lot of guys, but when you think about this 28 class, Faison's going to be gone, Greathouse is going to be gone, Cam Williams class will probably be gone. I mean, Micah Gilbert will definitely be gone unless Cam Williams comes back for a fifth year, unless Logan Saldate comes back for a fifth year. They're all going to be gone, and the current freshman class will be going into their junior season. I mean, it just the process is so sped up. That's what the 2028 class is. So there's a need for impact players. There's a need for high-level players. I think right now they've stocked the depth chart well numbers-wise. Now they can focus more on impact talent, which is what they did in the 27 class, obviously bringing in Jackson Coleman and Julius Jones Jr. So that's going to be a big focus for me, Sean, is they really need to follow up, Julius Jones with another big year at wide receiver. Go get another elite class, and there's a lot of guys on the board. There's one name to know for sure that I'm really high on, and that's Jalen Adai. If that name sounds somewhat familiar to you, Sean, he's from Pearland, Texas. Goes to Shadow Creek High School. That is the son of Joseph Adai, the former running back for the Indianapolis Colts.
How is
Just
Joseph a
another
guy that old?
bro. I played against Plexico Burst in high school, and his
That is
kid's a
great.
sophomore at Notre Dame, so I'm with you. But I saw the other day there's a 29 kid named Captain Munnerlin Jr. Remember him, the DB? I think he played at South Carolina
Uh-huh.
recently. It feels like, so yeah, no, it's getting there. But Jalen Adai is a dynamic player. He's a 5-star recruit. He's ranked 8th in the country by 247, and he's 13th nationally by 247. By ESPN, and then on three rivals. He's a big time guy. He's been on campus before. Notre Dame likes him a lot. He likes Notre Dame a lot. Lorenzo McMullen is another top 50 kid to keep an eye on. From Cincinnati, from Cincinnati Princeton. Obviously, the Buckeyes are going to be very hard to beat for an in-state wide receiver that they want. But he's definitely a guy to keep an eye on. Ryan Richmond Davis is a very talented wide receiver from Missouri, St. Louis. Notre Dame's obviously had some really good success with skill players from the St. Louis area in recent years. That's another guy on the list. Marshawn Thornton from Chicago is another guy that Notre Dame is very high on. Maddox Well is a really talented player from Fort Wayne, top 250 caliber guy that Notre Dame is in on early as well. Trey Finney is a really dynamic pass catcher from Texas. So the board is really strong right now. And there's 6-7 other kids that I can name that Notre Dame is in on. Owen Johnson's another one from Philadelphia. He's a teammate. He was a teammate of Joey O'Brien and Grayson McHugh at
Okay.
LaSalle College. He's really not dynamic player. Reminds me a little bit of Braden Lindsey. Just kind of has that body type, speed, quickness kind of thing. So real deep year at wide receiver. They need to get some of those high level guys, and you'd like if at least one of them can be a boundary type of body. Although I don't know that that's they could always they got Jackson Coleman last year. They could always just keep going to the portal until they find the right guy. The big key is find playmakers. That's really what Notre Dame's looking for, is finding playmakers. And a lot of those guys that I just talked about are bringing that to the table. And then the other one's tight end. This is an absolutely loaded year at tight end, Sean, and even better, it's a loaded year at tight end in the region. There's a young man from the state of Illinois by the name of Matt Bowen. Or actually, it's not Matt Bowen. I always want to say Matt Bowen, but that's the dad. So I always get it right. It's Grant Bowen, who
Okay.
is the son of Matt Bowen, who you remember played linebacker at Iowa back in the day. So really dynamic player, plays at the same high school. I believe it's Dom Hulack, played at the same high school, Immaculate Conception, in the Chicago area that Dom Hulack played at. Super athlete, Sean. He's a guy that reminds me a lot of that Tyler Eifert, Ian Premer type. Super athlete, 6'4", great pass catcher. And oh, by the way, some teams have offered him as a defensive player. He's an outstanding two-way player. Elite type guy, Sean, like top 25, top 35 caliber prospect, in my opinion. He's also graded that way by some of the services. On Three Rivals has him as the number 22 player in the country. And if that's not enough, there's also a couple really talented tight ends from the state of Illinois this year. There's Theo Schott, who's from Indiana, Jack McNamara from the Chicago area. So, and then of course on Grant Bowen, and then there's another talented young player from Wisconsin by the name of Trey Euler, who I know the staff is also very high on. They're also after Braxton Rain. They're very high on his list. He's a talented pass catcher. From Tennessee. So it's a great year at tight end, which is good for Notre Dame because it's a year where Notre Dame wants to get a top tight end, or at least one. I think probably go for two reasons. One, number, you only got one last year. By the time this class shows up, Cooper Flanagan's going to be gone. James Flanagan will be a senior when this class shows up. Jack Larson will be gone. Ty Washington will be gone. So I think you'll focus on two for numbers, but then also you're going to focus on two because it's such a deep year, you take advantage of it. It's a deep year, especially in the Midwest. You
Makes
take
sense.
advantage of it. So I think that's why we'll see two. And then, of course, just land good linemen and tackle types, and you want to get more running backs. It's a loaded running back board. I could see them taking two in that area as well. One is fine for now since they signed two the last 2 years, but depending on how the roster shakes out, they could end up taking two again. In the 28 class, and it's a really good running back. Obviously, Xander Edwards, who's the son of Mark Edwards, gets a lot of the attention, but there's a lot of talented backs. One of my favorites is a young man by the name of Zayden Jernigan from Mississippi, who's probably my favorite back in the class. He's outstanding. He's visited campus, I think, 3 times already. If that tells you anything about his interest level in the Irish.
Wow. So, yeah, I guess that's right. I forgot that Edwards is a 2028 guy because
Mm-hmm.
there's already been so much talk about him. at this point. So, all right, so that's a good it's a good list to have for Notre Dame in terms of the 2028.
Hmm.
But while I'm thinking about this, before we talk about defense, I'm trying to remember what are the rules. Like the Shamrock Series game is obviously for like home and away purposes. It's considered Notre Dame's game for recruiting purposes. Can they have players at a neutral site game like that? Like
They,
make
they
this
I believe they can, but I don't believe that they can provide tickets.
okay,
So like you can come, but I don't think they can treat it like
like
an
site.
unofficial visit like you do in other times. Yeah. You
Gotcha.
know.
Gotcha. All right, let's go to the defense then. We're talking Notre Dame's needs in the 2028 recruiting class, and that's, a lot of these guys who, visit and, everything else, like the 2027 class will sign on the dotted line in December. So it's on to 2028. Now, what about defense? What's at the top of your list in terms of defensive
Well,
needs?
I mean, Sean, they've been recruiting so extremely well that we're in a situation where the lazy answer is just keep recruiting the best players you can. But when you talk about like specific needs, I think the one unknown right now in the 27 class is what are they going to do at linebacker after Roman Weekday? Obviously, they're going to try to flip some guys if they can't flip the right players. And we'll get some names during the season. I'm gonna, I've been asked to hold off on some of those names right until for now, because if I say who the names are, then the schools that they're committed to know that these kids are looking at Notre Dame, and you know how that process goes. But it's some players that Notre Dame has been on, and guys that Notre Dame likes a lot. If you can't flip them, then what you do is you go to the portal for depth if you need it. So like let's say Drake Bowen leaves, Jalen Sneed has to leave. Let's say you know Alsbury also leaves, and let's say maybe Kingston leaves, and you got Mad Framo coming back, and you say, hey, we don't love our experience there. You can always go to the portal. If you get one of those two guys back, you may want to go to the portal for more of a depth player and then focus on 2028. But either way, it puts a lot of emphasis on being able to recruit the linebacker position in the 2028 class at a high level. That's going to be very, very important for Notre Dame. There's some players on the board that they like a lot. I think my top player so far is Taj Gray, who's from New Jersey. Very, very talented player. He's pretty open right now. I think Notre Dame's in on him. I think it's very early yet before I'm ready to start focusing too much on where they stand with him. But they've offered a ton of linebackers in the class, and we'll kind of have an idea of. We just did a story on Cale Britt, for example, who's committed to Wisconsin, but Notre Dame is still talking to him. Very deep class. Still trying to kind of get a read on who exactly are the top guys on the board for Notre Dame after Taj Gray. But that's a position where it's going to be very, very important that you get quality depth and then impact talent, and a little bit of combination of the two. Because I think this could be the first time in a few years that Notre Dame goes with 3 linebackers in this class if they can't finish strong in the 27 class.
Yeah, that would make sense. We've talked about the numbers in the 2027 class, and that is obviously, like you said, is a question mark in terms of next year's roster and whether or not they would need to go to the portal for a
Yeah.
linebacker really for the first time, I think. So,
Yeah. And after that, it's just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, look, you've already got Darian Prescott committed in the 2028 class at defensive end. There's a lot of other talented defensive ends on the board. Obviously, Notre Dame's still trying to get Cam McGee. I know there was a question about him. Notre Dame is definitely still trying to recruit Cam McGee. He's interested in them. Are they his leader? No. Are they in the game? Yes. I don't think his recruitment is anywhere close to being done. The key is going to be getting him on campus during the season and just continuing to show him, the product that Notre Dame's been putting on the field recent years on the D line just keeps getting better and better and better, and give him evidence that, hey, you can come to Notre Dame and be a high draft pick. So I think these next 6-7 months for him are going to be very, very important. But it's also an absolutely loaded year at defensive end. So if you don't get him, Asher Giotto is a kid from Florida that they're looking at. I think Miami's in Florida the team to beat there, but he's supposed to visit Notre Dame this season. I mentioned Cam McGee. Cam Toomey is a really talented player from New York that Notre Dame is on. Merrick Ham is a talented player from Georgia that Notre Dame is on. Asa Birch, whose dad played at Michigan, that they're the heavy favorite. Ohio State's in there, but Notre Dame's also in there. I know he likes Notre Dame a lot. So it's another year where defensive end is really deep. It's deep in the north. So there's opportunities to go out there and get some talented players and not have to go south to get them. But there certainly are some Southern kids too. So you want to keep recruiting the D tackle position and the DN position well. But because of how well they've done, you can be patient there. You don't have to panic because Cam McGee's not committing anytime soon because you already have Darian Prescott, who's a 5-star. So you can let that process kind of play out because you don't have to worry about numbers right now. Your focus is on getting elite talent. Your depth is great. Now it's about focusing on elite players. The other position that I do think that numbers will be somewhat important, after I say all that, is safety,
Yeah.
because that's a position where they just haven't done as well numbers wise in recent years. The guys they're getting are really good. They just
Hmm.
haven't been able to get the numbers that they like, and that board's another one that's still evolving. But I could see some current corners maybe shift over to safety next year, because they're so loaded at corner. But yeah, that's gonna be another one.
Let me ask you about Logan Thomas. I'm sure you get this question from time to time. We get it from time to time on our show as well. He's defensive end, struggled to put on weight. I think he's listed at like 224 right now, and you know Charlie Partridge kind of talked about it. They're sort of trying to find some packages.
Hmm.
Could you see him at all as a linebacker fit? If he can't, if
No,
add on more
no,
weight.
no. What you do is the thing is I know, like, you and I grew up in an era where, like, you had your starters and then you had your two deep, and that's just kind of you lined up in your defense, and then you'd kind of go to a nickel package if it was third and long. Well, nowadays they have so many sub packages. The NFL, I heard somebody break this down. Like, NFL defenses spend like 60 to 65% of the game in their sub packages. And Notre Dame's not quite that bad, but they're not quite that much. It's not bad, but they're not quite that heavy. But they do a lot of different sub packages, and sub packages are essentially, it's your nickel, it's your dimes, but it's also, Notre Dame last year, teams would go 12 personnel, they'd go to a 4-3 look, and put a third linebacker on the field, and sometimes it's like, hey, we're gonna have this unique package, in this situation, or when they go to this personnel group, and it's being able to match their personnel with your best personnel in that situation. And so you get into some of those situations, you can have a guy on your team, especially in this 105 scholarship limit era, that maybe is more of a sub package player as opposed to a full time player. So I think we're always looking for, how can we find a way to get Logan Thomas to be a full time player, and I'm sympathetic to that. But the reality is, he's just not going to be a full time player. But that doesn't mean he can't be a big time player as part of your D end rotation, and then also part of your sub packages. So I think you can play him as a base down D end. You just have to maybe be smarter with how you do it. Let's say Notre Dame wants to do more odd fronts. Well, he's a great player that you can use in an odd front meaning like a 3-down look, where, let's say, you've got, let's say they kind of go big. They want to put Jason Onye and Francis Brew and Tion Gray all on the field, or Armo Mukum and Jason Onye and Tion Gray or Francis Brew, like some combination of one of those three. And you put two of those big guys out on the end, and then you bump your other defensive end, which would be Logan Thomas, kind of out. He can still rush the passer. He can move around. He can drop into coverage, as a hook curl player, which are things they already do with their defensive ends. He can do that. And that's maybe an area where you could kind of move him around and blitz him from different areas like you do a linebacker. So he can maybe do some of that stuff in your sub packages, but he's not going to be lining up in your base downs, at Will or Mike. It's just, you're
Right.
not going to teach him all the things he would need to do at this stage of his career. It's about find a role for him and then let him cook in that role. I think that's going to be the key for Logan Thomas, and he can have a very, very important role without being
Absolutely.
a full time player at a certain position.
All right. We'll see how that works going forward. There's
Oh
as
yeah,
Brian, as we've said, there's a lot of talent on that line right now. Bryan Driskell, IrishBreakdown.com, in for the weekly recruiting update. Appreciate you after going through your procedure today. Go get some rest if you
hey,
can.
rule
Let your
number
head.
76: no excuses. Pot like a champion. That's how we roll.
That's right. That's right. All right, Brian. Take care. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, John.
All right. Boards.irishbreakdown.com. You can find out all the latest intel and juicy stuff, whether it's recruiting or whatever else, at boards.irishbreakdown.com. After a timeout, I'm joined by Amari Byles, freshman forward with the Notre Dame women's basketball team. More Notre Dame football talk coming up at 6 o'clock as well, when Vince DeDario joins me for Rapid Fire. It's all on the way. Weekday Sports Beat with irishbreakdown.com. Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com continues. Sean Stiers, Vince DeDario will be in the 6 o'clock hour to talk some more Notre Dame football and other topics with me in rapid fire. Some interesting things. Feinbaum high on Notre Dame. Yeah, that actually happened this week. We'll talk about that and some more Notre Dame topics. We're going to shift gears here real quickly, though, and have a little basketball interlude. School starts next week at Notre Dame, and one of the freshmen on the Notre Dame women's basketball team who will be starring for the Irish this season is Amari Byles, and I was joined by her recently, and we will hear that conversation with Amari Byles from Notre Dame women's basketball right now. Amari Byles is with us. She is part of Notre Dame women's basketball star-studded 5-member incoming freshman class. Welcome to the show, Amari. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's good to talk to you. Just for everyone who's listening and watching right now. We had a little technical issues getting going, so I think we're just glad we can hear each other's voice probably
Yes.
at this point.
Yes.
Well, you're home in Texas right now. You were on campus for most of the summer, practicing, working out, going to summer school, and all that good stuff. How would you kind of describe your first summer experience with the Irish on campus?
I mean, it was great. I had a great time. We got the work in, but we also had fun as well as a team. Um, school was school was great too. I mean, I feel like everybody was very supportive. I felt like it couldn't have been any better, honestly. Just got a lot of good work in with Coach Knox and just helped me a lot with the fundamentals and just really preparing me to be ready for this preseason coming up.
What were some of the classes that you took this summer, your first summer?
I took academic resilience, reading across disciplines, and then American politics.
Oh wow. So do you know what you want to major in at this point?
Yes, well, I want to major in business. Probably go more into the marketing area. The American politics class like doesn't really have anything to do with my major, but like it was like very interesting, I would say. And like just meeting the kids in there, they were extremely smart and like it was just like I guess it just sparked an interest. So I mean, I don't know.
I think that's probably an always good to have, good to know kind of subject elective to have,
Yes.
probably,
Yeah,
especially today, right?
for
So,
sure. Yeah, for sure.
well, this is it's obviously different, at the college level than high school or even AAU. And you talked about Carlos Knox. Was there maybe a biggest adjustment that you had going through things this summer?
I would say the biggest adjustment would just be like the weight room and then transitioning onto the court. I would say, um, like I've always done weight room, but I would say it was just like a little more intense. So just like my body just was like kind of like, oh my gosh, like my legs were dead, but you had to go extremely hard on the court still. So I mean, I would just say that was like the biggest transition. But just like Anne and Clive, there are trainers and they kind of just helped us. Like they said, no ice baths, and that was I was like, that's crazy.
No
But
ice baths?
no ice baths at all, but it actually really helped because like now I can do intensive training without like needing an ice bath or like just feeling extremely sore. So I feel like it definitely helped. I would say.
Well, I mean, again, like it's one thing when you're in high school and you've probably lifted weights and done some of that kind of stuff, but it
It's
feels like you get to this level and it's much more specific, much more intense. Were you doing things that you had never done before when you're going through that this summer?
um it was a combination of both. I feel like I had like had a good idea like of a lot of the things we were doing, but it was just like the intensity of it. It was just like we have like a Star Wars week and it's like you have to like basically just go your hardest and you do that for the entire week. So I just wasn't like used to doing that. I would say like just in high school, like we went hard, but it wasn't anywhere close, anywhere close to what we were doing. But I mean, it helped. It definitely helped. I like saw a big jump in my body, so I mean, it was worth it. I would say the pain was worth it.
What so the Star Wars theme, like how did that play into it? I mean, conditioning is one thing. How does Star Wars tie into it?
Um, honestly, I don't know what the name came from. Like we have a LFG week, and that's like Star Wars is the highest, like that's like the max, and
Okay.
then just like goes to LFG. So like, I don't really know what it came from. I think it's been around for a while, but I mean, I just know Star Wars is you gotta go hard. So that's what Clive says. He says choose
Okay.
hard. So
Okay. All
yeah.
right. What about Carlos Knox, your position coach? Was there anything specifically that he had you focus on, from a basketball skill standpoint this summer?
I would say we really focused on just every rep going hard, just every rep going hard. I would say. I feel like the fundamentals and the skills wise, it was like pretty like self-explanatory. Like, just getting to this level, you have to have a certain amount of skill. But I would say the biggest jump or the thing we really focused on is every rep. You have to go hard every single rep, sprint everywhere. Um, so I would say that was the biggest transition for me as well. Just not slacking off. In high school, sometimes you can take that break just because like you're one of the best out there. But
Right.
sure, you can't afford that because that break could lead to anything. So
Was there any eye-opening moments for you, I guess?
yeah, I would say just like because Coach Carlos, like we have like a great relationship. He's like my uncle, and I would say just like when he really got on me one time, I was like, oh man, this is different because like I'm used to him being like like on my knees, blah blah blah. But just how he was with me that one time, I was like, okay, yeah, I gotta lock in.
Well, I mean, teams you've played on before, you've had, I'm sure, a lot of good teammates, but you're still one of the best players on those teams, I'm sure, especially at the high school level. So I think that sometimes, like if you're one of the top teams, they kind of leave you alone a little bit. You probably don't get kind of, pushed and poked the same as some of the others, do you?
Yeah, I mean, well, I feel like like a lot of my coaches did prepare for that. I feel like I was intensive in like choosing coaches that really like pushed me, like didn't let like maybe just being one of the top players like get to them. Like I would say, so I would say I was intensive in choosing coaches like that. But I would just say it was just different. So yeah, I'd say that.
Go back to your time being recruited. You're still in high school. What was that experience like the first time you visited Notre Dame and you got to, to be up close and personal with the staff and the team and everything the first time?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've always known. Like when I first went there, my sophomore year, we went to actually the USC football game.
Okay.
And it was amazing. I mean, it just felt so natural. Of course, I wanted to like, of course, go throughout the process a little bit, just get an understanding of just other schools. But like, I've always kind of known that like that was my home, so it was kind of just a no brainer for me.
I'm curious because when you do come in and visit in the fall, especially like they typically plan it around a home football game, like you just talked about, in that
Yes.
your particular one, USC. Does everyone, I guess that has football, do they do it the same when you're in visiting?
Yeah, they usually do it like that. I would say, yeah.
So Notre Dame, of course, is known as Guard U. That's kind of become the moniker from this program. But some great front court players have come through here as well, and a lot of them have either played in the WNBA or still playing in the WNBA right now. So as a forward, what made this the right fit for a highly touted front court player like yourself?
I would say just seeing all of the women in the WNBA now, just seeing it translate. Like I like Jessica Shepard, like she's an amazing forward, I would say, and she went to Notre Dame, obviously. So just seeing her, just like that, I guess that inspires me to want to keep going, and that was a big thing of me. I mean, choosing Notre Dame, just seeing all of the pros they have had. So I mean, just being around that, and I just really think that it could prepare me and get me to the next level where I want to go. So.
As you look at your game, what do you think is the biggest asset that you bring to this team in your freshman season?
I would say just my versatility. I would say I feel like I can be anywhere on the floor. I feel like if they need me to be the 4, I'm gonna do that. If they need me to be the 3, I'm gonna be that. So I just feel like I can spread the floor all around, and I just feel like I work hard as well. I rebound. I just feel like I kind of do a little bit of everything, and I'm a good teammate as well. So I just think bringing that energy and just being a good teammate in general is just like a big asset I could bring.
Well, I have to be honest. I should have written this down because and held it up. Like versatility was like when I think of you from everything that I've seen and heard so far is the thing that springs to mind, and it feels like when you've got a new group like this, the more versatile, especially the more versatile you can be, the better. Like, does
For
it feel
sure.
that way to you?
Yes, yes, definitely. And I would say even this group is just very versatile. So I just feel like we can move around a lot, and I just think like we just have the best of both worlds in so many areas. So I just think this group of knowledge just like I don't know, just really helps us, I would say.
You mentioned, going to the Notre Dame USC game. Are you a football fan? Like, do you get into football during the season?
Um, kind of, I mean I got some friends on the football team now, so I'm gonna, be a little more of a fan, but no, I haven't really been like a football fan ever, so
It's a social event then, right?
yeah, I would say more of that. But
There's
I'll
nothing wrong
block
with
it. Shout
that.
to my friends.
Yeah, I mean, obviously at Notre Dame, it's a big social event,
Yes,
so
yeah.
a lot of turnover from last year's roster, obviously, but Hannah is the main constant. So I'm curious, like, what it's like going from being a high school player, watching someone like her on TV, obviously sometimes in person, when you've been able to be there as
Mhm.
well, like going from that to actually playing with her on the court.
Yes.
What's that been like?
Yeah, I mean it's been a crazy jump. I would say, yeah, just like you said, just watching her now. I'm with her. It's been great, honestly. Just seeing the intensity in person, seeing how passionate she is, has been inspiring. It's helped all of us, honestly, just work harder and want to be on the court and want to go hard every single day, every single rep. So I mean, it's really helped us, helped me get better for sure. And just I feel a huge jump, I would say, and just feel more confident and um she really like she gives in to us, like she listens to us. She's a great teammate, so I would say just being with her on the court has really helped.
Is there anything different, than maybe about her than you would have thought after, being out there with her?
As far as on the court or just
Yeah, mostly on the
okay.
court, I guess. Or,
I
you could
mean
go off the court as well, just personality and stuff
I
like
mean
that.
on the court, I feel like just seeing what I've seen on TV and seeing in person, she's not any different. She's just as intense, just as having a lot of energy every single day, every single moment. Like it's the exact same. It's the exact same. So and then off the
You
court, I just wouldn't expect her to be so goofy, but
I think that catches a lot of people by surprise,
yeah,
especially when you see the kind of intensity that she has when she's out there playing, right?
yes, yeah,
You're from DeSoto, Texas, which is a little bit south of the Dallas Metroplex down
yeah.
there. And of course, Notre Dame got down there a couple times last season, SMU, and then in the NCAA tournament over in Fort Worth. Were you able to go to either one of those the either SMU or to any of the games in the NCAA tournament?
Yes, I went to both. So it was great seeing that in person. It felt accomplishing, actually, just seeing my team and just seeing how well they were doing, especially when they made it to the Elite Eight. I was extremely proud of them,
And it had to be cool just to kind of, especially when the NCAA tournament makes its way down there for the Sweet 16
for sure.
and the Elite Eight, to kind of
Yes.
have that in your backyard and just be able to drive up to it, huh?
Yeah, we were hoping they were in Fort Worth, so it worked out perfectly.
Were you watching the week before on TV when they beat Ohio State in Columbus?
Yes. Yes.
What was what was that like? Just sort of knowing I'm going to be part of this next year. To see them do what they did.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I mean, it was like a I don't even know how to describe the feeling. Just like I was just like, wow, it's just like this is really gonna be me. And honestly, I still have that feeling, just like knowing some of the games we have coming up, and it's just like, wow, sorry about that. Wow, this is this is like just an amazing feeling, I would say.
Well, someone else who was at the Elite Eight, I know he was at the UConn game, Kyrie Irving, who of course is a member of the Dallas Mavericks. You got to work out with him earlier, maybe around that same time. I think it was March.
Yes.
You posted a video on your social media. How did that whole thing come about?
So basically, Kyrie, there's a team called Legion. They're a high school, and he's like he owns that high school basically. So, we just they have those ties, and Coach Irv, he's like yeah. So Coach Irv just kind of wanted us to be a part of that, and had Kyrie come up and work us out. It was crazy when he got there. We were just like, oh, but um yeah, so we actually worked out with him, and then he like talked to us. He invited us to a Mavs game, so it's cool just having that tie for sure. So it was definitely cool.
So I've got the video here from your social media, and let me see if I can. I'll hit play. That's you.
Yep.
Let me mute this. Tell me what's going on here when he, because you're going to see if I can get the video in the screen there. Right there it is.
Yep.
So what's he talking to you about right now? Do you remember?
Yeah, he was talking to me just about like mismatches. Basically, the girl that was guarding me was shorter than me, so he was just saying like I have to really take advantage of that. Like instead of like doing that fade, just taking her to the rim and just showing her like don't try to guard me basically like you're too little basically. So
take
yeah.
advantage take advantage of the mismatch when you can get it. That's got to
Yeah.
be that's got to be a just a very very sort of surreal opportunity, I guess,
Yes.
because again, you grow up there and he's a member of the Mavs, to have something like that happen.
Yeah, it definitely was.
Do you have any particular favorite players, whether they're men's or women's, college, NBA, WNBA, that are your favorite, that you kind of like to watch the most?
I would say as far as NBA, man, like it's like Kobe, LeBron, those are kind of my favorites. And then WNBA, I really like Nafisa Collier. She's a bucket, so I love watching her play. She makes it look so easy.
All right, Amari Byles getting back on campus very soon, getting ready for her first semester as a freshman at Notre Dame. It won't be long now. We've basically just got what, about 2.5 months to go, and the season opens up in Rome. Have you ever been to Rome before? How much are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, I've been to Rome once, and I've been to Italy twice. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I feel like it's gonna be amazing. And just knowing like how it is already. So I'm super excited to go back, and then especially with the team, I think it's just gonna be extremely fun and extremely unique too for our first game.
Absolutely. Great stuff. Amari Byles, Notre Dame women's basketball, again, in her freshman season. You'll be seeing her out there all season long as the Irish get ready for another season in November when they take on Villanova in Rome. Amari, appreciate you doing this. Best of luck. Safe travels getting
Thank
back to
you,
campus.
thank you so much for having me on.
All right, Amari Byles, Notre Dame women's basketball. And like just said, the season opens up November 1st in Rome, and the Fighting Irish take on the Villanova Wildcats. It'll be a men's and women's basketball doubleheader from Rome, and you will hear all those games all season long here on Sports Radio WSBT. We've got more Notre Dame football talk coming up in the second hour. Rapid fire is what we call it, and that is coming up in the 6 o'clock hour. Vince DeDario will join me. We'll do that after we take this break. Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com in the 6 o'clock hour. Vince DeDario is here. This has been a weird show in terms of Vince usage, a low usage rate for Vince DeDario on today's show. He sat on the bench basically for the first half, and now he's coming out ready to put up some long threes here in the second half. See what happens.
Some would argue less is more when it comes to me. But, here we are, ready to roll, ready to rock.
All right. That's all I need to hear. It's rapid fire time.
Listen, there's some good stuff in here for rapid fire is what I would say.
I'm glad you're fired up. I'm glad you're fired up about it.
Yeah, there's some good stuff in here. I'm ready to get after it. I'll tell you that right now.
Okay. Including, we're not going to start with it, but we got some practice notes based on reports from Wisconsin's practice.
Yes, we did.
Talk about here in just a minute. But let's start with this. Fill in the blank. NBC announcing today that the broadcast team of Dan Hicks doing play-by-play and Jason Garrett doing color commentary is returning this year to call Notre Dame games with the addition of Caroline Pineda on the sidelines is blank.
Par for the course, I guess. I'm not overly surprised that they're not making a move in the booth. That doesn't surprise me. I don't think certain people are ready for a promotion, and so that's okay. You can hang at Notre Dame apparently in the minor leagues. And I say that sarcastically. That's just the way Notre Dame games are treated. And as far as Caroline Pineda is concerned as the sideline reporter, she's great. I think she's an alum of Notre Dame. So
she's an alum. Cool. I honestly don't know much about her. I don't know
either.
I've heard or seen her before. I saw the photo. I think I've seen her, like on something before, but can't say that I've actually heard her work. So
I can't say that I have either. And but I'm sure she'll be in the long line of sideline reporters at Notre Dame Stadium that do a great job.
Yes. Yeah. Actual sideline reporter, not the in-stadium host that Vince and I love so much.
Yeah.
Whoever it happens to be.
Yeah, big difference in that job description is what I would say to that.
You're exactly right.
Uh-huh.
I don't mind Dan Hicks at all. I've said before,
I agree.
He's not a flashy play-by-play guy. I think he's underrated. He's done a great job with the Olympics for NBC for years now. He's traditionally done the swimming there, and this will be year 3 for him doing the play-by-play, and he's Hannah Storm's husband, so there's a Notre Dame connection there.
Right. I always forget that.
Yeah.
I always forget that little nugget.
Little sneaky little thing there.
Yeah.
Sneaky. Again, like pros pro type of guy.
Yep.
And I think he does a good job. So he's good. I think his biggest asset, really, Dan Hicks, is I don't think he's going to annoy you. Like, I don't hear people complain about Dan Hicks. He just does a really solid, he's not up and over the top. He's just going to call a good game, you know?
Yep.
And try to set up Garrett as much as possible.
And I will say, I think it's a decent tandem between the two of them. Garrett doesn't bother me the way he really bothers some other people. And obviously there's, and I'm not necessarily referring to you and Jesse.
No, I know what you're saying.
But some people are just very anti him. I don't mind it. I mean, he's obviously got a football mind, and you don't have to go super deep when it comes to being a color guy. In fact, I don't want you to go super deep being a color guy. You're just supposed to explain to the general masses what is happening, and I think he does a decent job of that, and he's gotten better over the years. So I'm honestly good with him, and I don't have the to the point of view and Jesse, I don't have the deep-seated animosity towards him as the former coach.
I wouldn't even say mine is deep-seated. I'll just say he basically is what he was when he was standing at the podium for, doing press conferences as head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. He is just a very vanilla, if vanilla is your flavor, you get a little, sprinkle a little carrots on top, like a little carrot top ice cream or whatever. Jason Garrett is your guy.
Sure.
They had him on Hard Knocks last night. They're doing, they're following.
Oh, really? Okay.
Here. And he was sitting in the quarterback's room, and he was telling him a story about how when he was still a backup quarterback in the NFL, what he used to do when they would go on road trips, like he'd be on the team plane, and I guess what he would do is he would draw out every play, like in terms of where the receivers were supposed. He would basically diagram every offensive play to try to keep his mind sharp.
Sure.
So that he knew the playbook, because like what he was saying is, as the backup quarterback, you have to know the playbook probably even better than the starting quarterback, because you're not getting all the actual reps. So
Makes
he's
sense.
telling him this story, and I think that that little thing there in itself is interesting, but listening to the way he was telling the story, that was the issue. And you could see the guys, like, their eyelids just glazing over, sitting there listening to him tell the story. And to me, that's the biggest thing. I think he's got decent information.
Yeah.
There's just not a lot of entertainment.
He's not a good storyteller.
That's right.
He's not a good storyteller. Yeah, it's funny because, when I used to be in the classroom, one of the things, I was a history teacher, but one of the things I loved the most was history is stories. And so I would literally just be up there telling stories to kids, and, what would happen and all these different things. And that's what I loved about it, because I love telling stories. I love having people be at the edge of their seat. He's not good at that. I give you that. He's definitely not great at that. He's kind of bland. So,
and that's,
it's tough, Sean, because I ride the rail of, do I want to be entertained by the guys that are calling the game, or do I just want you just to explain to me what's going on, and I'll be entertained by what I'm watching? You know what I mean?
I don't need a stand-up comedian,
Right.
but I'd like a little bit more personality, I think, in the booth. There's a big difference between, like Troy Aikman, I think, sits at the top. Greg Olson sits. Now, those are NFL guys. They're literally at the top
Sure.
of the entire pecking order when it comes to, that. But there's just, because I'm trying to think, I guess take out what you think, who you think Kirk Herbstreit does or doesn't like or whatever. Like, there's a difference between Herbstreit in the college booth and Herbstreit in the NFL
Big
booth.
time.
I think he's got a lot more personality and comes across a lot differently in the college booth,
Mm-hmm.
Compared to the NFL. But, again, like he's pushing it out. I think Jason Garrett, they say that a lot of times in this business, like, you need to sort of add 10% to yourself, because you need to project and
Sure.
all the different stuff that comes along with it.
I
Like,
get
it feels
that.
to me, Jason Garrett needs a good 20%.
I
add
get that.
10%, and I think that you would have at least a less annoying at times Jason Garrett.
I get that. Yeah, that's an interesting observation about the 10% thing, because I like to think I'm just me when I'm on the show, but then I'd say there's a little extra 10%. You know what I mean? Just and same for you.
Up a little bit, right?
Yeah,
like I don't sit in my living room, talking to my wife like this all the time, right?
Exactly. My wife would have divorced me a long time ago if this is the way I spoke with. This is all I talked about.
Come on, honey.
Yeah. Exactly. That's good.
Of course, we got to change the channel. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I'd have to wear my headphones all the time so I could hear myself talk.
Yeah, but I mean, the primetime package, the NBC primetime game package is still Noah Eagle and Todd Blackledge, and because Notre Dame has so many primetime games, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Miami, SMU, it's probably a good chance that Notre Dame fans get to see a lot of those guys anyway.
Exactly, and I kind of do like that, to be honest with you, Sean, because you get a little bit of a different flavor. You don't have the same guys for every single home game. You're going to get the primetime guys probably a couple of times, I would imagine. And so I do like that a little bit. It just changes it up a little bit.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Now, some actual football to talk about. So, as we talked about at the start of yesterday's show, Wisconsin held an open practice last night at their regular football stadium, Camp Randall Stadium in Madison. So, according to Wisconsin media in attendance, sounded like a shaky night for the quarterback, Colton Joseph.
I was just going to say, I wonder if that one kid was at practice. I wonder if he made it.
I was wondering, too. Not able to tune into his show to find out today.
Sorry, I
Good
couldn't help
question,
it.
though. One would hope. But,
Yeah.
okay, so here's some things that were said about Colton Joseph, the Wisconsin quarterback, from last night's open practice that Wisconsin held. He threw an interception in 7-on-7. What On3 said was a simple pass short and over the middle, interception there. They said that there were some other forced passes and some poor reads in RPOs. Joseph did hit a few deep shots, gains of 34 and 23 yards. They had a third down period where Joseph hit a few shots again. They noted a diving catch by their tight end, Jacob Harris, that really helped on the longest gain. I think it was like around 40 yards. They did a move the ball period where the drive started inside the 30. Joseph, they said, airmailed a pass on third down, and the offense went 4 and out on their first drive because they went for it on 4th and 4, failed to convert. The number 1 offense for Wisconsin went against the number 2 defense in their second series. Joseph was sacked on first down, and then on 3rd and 9, he threw an errant pass to no one, to the report. The first-team offense got the last drive, but they ran only 2 plays and then ended the period after that. So the overall observation of Joseph from Badger Blitz is that he is not a great pocket passer, especially if he has to come off of his primary read. So there's kind of a synopsis of some things said about Colton Joseph, the Wisconsin quarterback, from their open practice last night. Vince, you're feeling what after hearing that?
I am feeling that maybe the spread on FanDuel isn't big enough. That's what I'm feeling. And look, the reason being is, now look, it was one practice, right? And you can take what you want from one practice. Now, here's the thing for me. It doesn't sound like the offense is moving the ball very well. It doesn't sound like they're going to be prepared to put up a bunch of points, especially against an elite defense. And I think we can all agree Notre Dame has an elite defense. And if the second team Wisconsin defense is sacking the quarterback on first down against the first team offense, that's a major problem for Wisconsin.
It is a major problem for Wisconsin.
If you're telling me that, they're not moving the ball, which means they're probably not going to put the ball in the end zone offensively, that Notre Dame only scores 21 points, I think that's about what the spread is right now. That's a problem. Notre Dame's going to score more than 21. So I don't know that the spread is big enough. And again, it's one practice, so I'm not taking everything from it. But at this point, you should be able to move the ball against the second team defense. And it didn't sound like that happened.
You're absolutely right. I mean, they were excited about this guy. They felt like they got a big upgrade at quarterback. Maybe it turns out to be, but
sure.
That's one practice, but you also had 2 years of this guy as a starting quarterback at Old Dominion. I feel like, listening to that, he's not comfortable in the pocket. You hear about all these errant passes. This is a guy who ran for over 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns last year. He ran for over 600 yards and 11 touchdowns the year before that. I just feel like, Notre Dame fans might not want to hear this. You might want to plug your ears right now, but actually listen. I got a feeling we're going to, especially early on, we're going to see, a pretty fair share of zone defense against this guy. Force him to stay in the pocket because it sounds like he'll make some mistakes. He did have 10 interceptions last year, and 7 of those 10 came in their 3 losses. That included 3 in the opener against Indiana. And obviously, the zone part of it being keep the guy in front of you. Don't let him, break any plays with his legs and just get out in the open field, because he had almost 180 yards on the ground in that game against Indiana last year. And that, even though he threw 3 interceptions, Old Dominion, as we know, made that a close game against the Hoosiers last year. He's only a 59% career passer, and he completed 50%, 56% or fewer in half of their games last year. So, again, I just think Notre Dame, keep this guy in the pocket as much as possible. Don't let him break anything open with his legs. He's going to make mistakes. It sounds like I expect him to play a lot of zone and mix up some coverages and pressures and stuff like that and try to confuse him. Again, like you said, it's one practice, but you also have like 2 more years of film that I'm sure they've been watching all summer long as well on this guy.
100%. And to your point, Old Dominion, I thought there was a chance they might beat IU in that game. I mean, for a while, if you watch that game, it was not looking good for the Hoosiers. But what I will also say is they better do a better job of protecting him and allowing him. Yes, I agree with you completely. They're going to throw zone at him. They're going to throw man at him. They're going to throw some combo stuff at him. They're going to confuse the crap out of him, number one. and they're going to make him try to make plays, which is where he's going to make mistakes.
Well, and again, like they're talking about if he has to come off his primary read, he is not very good. Well, against Notre Dame's secondary, do you think he's going to have to come off his primary read quite a bit?
Oh, that's so. Absolutely. And then if we have had front row seats to quarterbacks who, once they come off their primary read, are in trouble. And I think that's probably a situation we're going to be looking at in the team wearing red, on September 6th. And so, I think this is going to be a field day for the front seven of Notre Dame, putting pressure on him. And I think they're going to pressure him into mistakes as well. And with the secondary that Notre Dame is sporting, I mean, I don't care whether it's zone, man, combo, whatever it happens to be. I think they're going to be in position to get some turnovers too. So, yes. Again, one practice, but man, that is not a promising look for a team that's trying to, upset a top 5 team for the first time in a decade.
Doesn't sound like you wanted to show your fan base by opening up the practice.
Yeah.
Tuesday night.
I wanted to know if Notre Dame was taking notes. That would have been nice to maybe
get
and
Joe is asking this question: if a team offers an open practice, can an opposing team send scouts to that practice?
If it's open to the public, I suppose you can, because it's open to the public. If it's just an open practice to the media, obviously that's not going to happen.
Right. But this was completely. Yeah. They even had concessions.
Oh yeah.
Thing yesterday.
Then I don't know why you wouldn't.
Yeah. I think the only stipulation would be you're not allowed to video.
Right.
Which
would make sense.
But you're not allowed to video anything. So Connor Stallions would have had a hard time showing.
If we were closer, that's the kind of thing I would go to. I mean,
Yeah, but I said, yes, if I had known, more in advance, and definitely if we were it would have been great.
Go road trip to Madison,
Yeah. But all right, so interesting. So that's kind of the early scouting report with 18 days to go.
I was going to say, and here's the other piece of this. We talked about how Notre Dame is coming to a place where fall camp is ending and they're going to start in their game prep and all that. Well, the same is the case for Wisconsin. They're getting to the end of fall camp. This isn't really the time where you're working out kinks per se. This is kind of kind of who your starters are. You're rolling them out there. This is kind of the last hurrah before they get into prep for Notre Dame. And this is the product that you put on the field. So that's tough.
I think, and you said this, I think the most troubling thing to, out of that whole set of observations that they had there, and again, that came from Wisconsin reporters who were there watching the practice last night. The fact that the number 2 defense sacked the quarterback, against the number 1 offensive line on the first play and put him behind the chains right away. That's
Notre Dame's front seven.
Wisconsin's defense is that good? I don't know, but that seems pretty troubling to me.
Notre Dame's front seven's got to be licking their chops right now if they read that report. And remember, this is coming from Wisconsin writers. These are guys that cover Wisconsin who. I'm not saying that they're going to, be all rose-colored glasses and stuff like that, but it sounded awfully critical from a group of people that cover Wisconsin.
Right.
And so that even kind of says a little bit more to me as well.
I think so as well. It didn't come from the official Wisconsin website or any of that kind of stuff. It came from just, guys on the Wisconsin football beat. So,
yeah. Oof.
All right, Paul Feinbaum and Dusty Dvorak were on ESPN's Get Up with Mike Greenberg yesterday. They had a little discussion on whether or not the Big Ten would continue its dominance this season with a 4th straight national championship. Starting with Dvorak, here's what they had to say.
Several teams this year that can win a national championship, but I'm all in on the Irish this season. I think this is Notre Dame's year. Last year, they were just left out. Marcus Freeman's mantra this year, leave no doubt. I love the line of scrimmage. This is an elite defense, and I think C.J. Carr is a star. So the Big Ten's going to be right there in the mix all year, and yes, they're capable. But if you're asking me, does the streak continue? No, Greeny, I don't think it does. I think it's the Irish that are the national champs.
Paul, I know it pains you, but I feel like you sort of agree.
Yeah, I am
terminally ill from this conversation, Greeny, but it is correct. And Dusty, I think Notre Dame is the one outlier because I frankly think Ohio State and Oregon are also in that classification. The SEC is good, and we'll bore you to death with all the stats, but the Big Ten has ruled, and only Notre Dame can keep that from happening this year. I really think the Irish are capable. I have Oregon slightly ahead of them, but Notre Dame's schedule, and I'm a schedule freak, is pretty manageable. They go to BYU in the middle of the year. They have Miami at home, but other than that, they can manage, I think, every other game very well.
All right, so there's Feinbaum, Dusty Dvorak. Before that, some pretty high praise from Feinbaum that only Notre Dame can unseat the Big Ten this year. He also said on First Take that he thinks Notre Dame's ranked too low at number 4 and thinks it should basically be Oregon and Notre Dame, 1A and 1B in the rankings. So I guess my question is, does it concern you that this is probably the nicest things that Feinbaum has ever said about Notre Dame?
Oh, it absolutely concerns me. It's like, hell has frozen over and they're having a snowball fight. Like, I don't understand how this is even happening, and that he didn't even offer an SEC team that could challenge the Big Ten. It was Notre Dame or the field, like, or the big, or Big Ten. Like, who is this guy? Where's he getting his paycheck from, man? Like, it makes no sense to me. I have never heard him say anything positive about Notre Dame like this.
Not like that.
There have been some inklings and some different things if Notre Dame had a good game or something like that, but it was all, he would always find a way to bring it back to the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's not even, the SEC didn't come up one time in that entire clip. I don't know what's happening.
I know. I don't know what world we're living in because, like in pro wrestling, Feinbaum would be the rare, heel turned baby face, because usually it's the other way around. Like the good guy at some point becomes the bad guy, like Hulk Hogan or whatever, but like this is the other way around. Like he's pulling a Jedi mind trick on us with this whole thing here. It's just, and it's interesting that he has Notre Dame and Oregon, because obviously that's not how most people see it. Again, like when you look at the rankings, Ohio State got 41st place votes. Oregon got 14. Notre Dame got 6. Georgia didn't get any first place votes. That maybe that kind of says what people think about the SEC right there. But they are ranked number 3 in spite of getting no first place votes. So I don't know. Mixed up magical world. Feinbaum back in the Irish now.
I'm not sure what would be more crazy to me or more backwards to me, Paul Feinbaum talking about Notre Dame being a favorite, or like them digging up Mark May to talk about how good Notre Dame was. Right. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I'm at.
Feinbaum also didn't bash Notre Dame's schedule. He just said it was a manageable schedule. Like he didn't, like everyone else is just bashing the schedule. Oh, it's the worst schedule you're ever going to see. Of course they're going to run the table and that kind of thing. Like, I don't know. He must have gotten up and taken some Happy Shamrock pills or
the Notre Dame boosters slipping him some coins, say some nice things. I don't know.
Never heard anything like it. Man. How about what Dvorak said before that? He was heaping praise on him as well. He says he loves the line of scrimmage. He thinks Notre Dame's defense is elite, and CJ Carr is a star. Like, if you have those 3 things, you think that's enough?
I think those are the main 3 that you would want. If you gave me options, those are the 3 I'm going to take. And this is a team that is put together very specifically the way Marcus Freeman wants it put together, right? He wants a line-driven team. He's a defensive coordinator at heart, so the defense is going to be elite, and then he's got an elite quarterback. I mean, that's where you want to be, man. It's probably the order that I would actually have it. Maybe not that order, but those are the top 3 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like look at last year. Like, there's more known in terms of performing at this level with CJ Carr than there was for Fernando Mendoza last
100%.
Indiana. And you look at that formula: line of scrimmage, elite defense, and the quarterback. I mean, they had the second best scoring defense. Indiana, I'm referring to, en route to their championship.
Yeah.
Second best scoring defense. They had the 12th best rushing offense, in spite of the fact that they had no one in the backfield even close to the caliber of Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. And, like O-line, D-line driven program with a great quarterback, like I think that, again, I realize there are still so many people who have a large amount of concern with this receiving group that Notre Dame has. I think Faison Greathouse and Graham are every bit as good or better than Omar Cooper and Elijah Surratt, who Indiana had
I agree.
last year. But again, they got great quarterback play, and Notre Dame's going to get great quarterback this year.
Look, how did IU win? Right, they had a great offensive line and a great offensive line coach. I mean, it was dominant offensive line play. They had above average quarterback play. Right, he made plays when he had to. Wasn't always pretty, but he made plays when he had to. And they had an elite defense. It's how they won a national championship.
Exactly.
So
I think Notre Dame's got the exact same blueprint that Indiana had last year.
And I would argue, and I realize this is not necessarily revisionist, but I would argue that CJ Carr has more talent than Fernando Mendoza. You know what I just,
absolutely.
And I think Notre Dame's defense is better than IU's defense last year. So, you're right. I think it's a very similar formula, but to get people excited, I think Notre Dame is actually just a skosh better at those three spots.
I do too. I think that, again, I think when you look at Notre Dame's receivers as a group, there's less experience and actual production. But, like what we've seen of them, I think that Notre Dame actually has more going into this year than Indiana had going into last year.
100%.
Again, especially when you consider quarterback and receivers for both groups. And then you look offensive line, I think it's fairly similar. You look defense, I think it's fairly similar. And, you can argue that the talent is even a notch higher, which is kind of what you just alluded to in terms of what Notre Dame had. I felt like Indiana was going to be better last year than the year before, but I didn't think that they were just going to dominate some teams the way they did last season.
Do you remember what they were ranked in the preseason? I did not, so I just looked it up.
I think they were actually 20th last
20th.
year.
That's exactly right. Good job. I didn't realize they were that low, to be perfectly honest with you. But yeah, they were 20th, and they just slowly worked their way back up.
That's right. All the way to number one. Okay, more Feinbaum. Speaking of Indiana.
Wild.
They're ranked 6th in the preseason AP poll after winning their national championship last year. Had a little debate on First Take. First, you're going to hear from Feinbaum, then Courtney Cronin, who's an IU alum, and then Chris Canty and Evan Cohen. Here's the discussion they had about where Indiana is ranked.
One-hit wonder. Signetti's the best coach in college football, but that schedule and whatever you want to say about Josh Hoover, he is not going to be Fernando Mendoza. I think everybody can bank on that. They're going to come back a little bit this year. I think they're still a playoff team, 10-2 at the worst, but that's still not worthy of being number one or number two. So I understand Indiana graduates all over the country are now starting to sound like Ohio State graduates and Alabama graduates and Notre Dame graduates, but slow down a little bit, okay, IU? You've had your day. You'll have some fun, but you're not winning the national championship this year.
Apparently everybody else in college football doesn't schedule cupcakes on its early start season. I didn't know Indiana was the only team, guys, that did that, Evan. Is the disrespect, is that the right word for where Indiana is?
Yes, of course it is. And I went to University of Wisconsin. I'm a proud alum of a school in the same conference.
Are you, though?
Am I what, an alum?
I mean, you can't be proud of the football program.
Oh, what an unnecessary shot here. Okay, so here's the thing. This is the preseason polls, and we're asking about the disrespect around the preseason poll, is not about where you think they're going to finish at the end of the season. This is about where they are right now. So the idea, as Paul is mentioning, that Josh Hoover is not going to be Mendoza, are you voting on who's going to be atop the rankings at the end of the season or where they should be today? Because I understand it as this is where they are today. Now, I want everybody to do something here. Let's do an exercise. Close your eyes and imagine this. Imagine I tell you that the national champion the year before loses 0 games. Okay? Their head coach, who's 27-2, comes back. They bring in a quarterback to replace the number 1 overall pick who played 4 years at TCU. And he had better numbers coming in than the previous guy. And now, let me also tell you, because of a court ruling, they get more defenders back as well. And now, put them in an Alabama uniform. Where are they ranked to start the season?
They're the preseason number 1 team.
So this is not about football. It's not about Kurt Signetti. It's not about where Courtney graduated from, which is
Indiana.
It's all about the perception that we still admittedly have that we don't believe that Indiana is a football power.
All right, so that was Evan Cohen there at the end, one of the co-hosts of Unsportsmanlike Conduct on ESPN. So do you buy or sell his argument there, Vince? Like if you looked at the same resume and the name was Alabama instead of Indiana, do you think Alabama would be number one coming into this season?
Number one is a stretch, but I think they'd be higher than 6. So, I mean, I'll buy the fact that America or college football fans in general are having a difficult time wrapping their minds around the fact that IU is a quote-unquote football power.
Right.
Number one, I don't think they are yet. You got to prove it for more than just 1 year. But on the other hand, if when you say it the way he said it, if you take what they did last year, the head coach coming back, et cetera, I think they lost half a dozen starters. That still means you've got a bunch left, right? And a couple of guys coming out of the portal, so to speak, from graduation now that they get to play again. So you're going to have a lot of returning production. I think they would be ranked higher if they had a different name across their chest. I do. Now, I also agree that I don't believe that they have enough firepower to win a national championship. I think their schedule's harder than it was last year, and I don't think they're going to be able to manage it to an extent and then make a run in the playoff.
Yeah, and like what Feinbaum was saying, I think that's completely fair as well. Like double down on what Feinbaum is saying.
Right.
They're going to be good, but he doesn't expect them to be as great. Like he's expecting a 10-2 season potentially. Because like not every quarterback they get is going to be Fernando Mendoza. Like Curtis Rourke was good, but not great a couple of years ago. They upgrade to Fernando Mendoza. Let's see what Hoover turns out to be.
I'm definitely not a Hoover fan. I can tell you that right now.
I don't think
that's a downgrade.
A lot of people who aren't Hoover fans. And, maybe Signetti's got his magic wand or whatever, but I agree with like what you're saying and what they're saying about being a power as well. Look, TCU was in a national championship game not that long ago, that didn't last, right? Like even Michigan has fallen back since winning a national championship. So there's they're a national championship. They have had 2 great seasons, but I don't think that we can call them a college football power, right? Like in this moment, I guess, you could make that argument, but I think there's more to being a quote unquote power than having 2 pretty, one really successful season and another successful season piggybacked on top of it. That's like a longer runway, I think, that you have to look at to get that kind of status.
I think, the biggest thing for me is, look, we talked about Notre Dame being ranked 4, and it's like, well, I think that's a little low, but whatever. It's a preseason ranking. It doesn't matter. Kind of feel the same way about IU. If you're an IU fan, okay, you're ranked 6. There's plenty of runway for you to move up the rankings, and there's going to be teams that are playing around you and losing and things like that. You're fine at 6. Here's the thing. I don't think they're going to end up at 6. I think they're going to end up in the back a little bit more. Now, do I think they're a playoff team? Sure, I think they could make the playoff. No problem with that. I don't think they're going to end up at 6.
Because again, like everyone's talking about Notre Dame's schedule, but look at their schedule. They can absorb 2 losses, which there's a good chance that they'll get, and they're still going to be in the conversation.
Absolutely.
They should still be one of the, at worst, top 3 teams in their conference this year.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I don't know if that's a top 6 team. I don't think it is. I think they'll be a little bit further back. But at the same time, if you're at 6 and you take care of business, you'll move up.
Yeah.
Like, you're fine. You're in a great spot. You moved up from 20 to number 1 last year.
Right.
You're okay at 6. You're okay.
You're okay. Just like Notre Dame's okay at number 4.
And I know we're probably running short on time, but I also feel like all these different opinions about what the rankings mean and should it be based on last year, should it be based on what you think they're going to end up as and all that. I look at it as, what are you right now? Right now, I don't think IU's better than the number 6 team in the country.
Yeah,
I don't think that.
There are more questions about Indiana coming into this year than last year. And look at the teams, by the way, that are ranked in front of them, and at the top of the polls, because we're talking about Hoover. Yeah, he's got experience, but not at Texas. Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, Notre Dame, Texas. Those are the top 5 teams. What have they all got? A Heisman Trophy? Well, maybe not Gunnar Stockton, but they've at least all got a returning starting quarterback from a year ago. most of those teams, 3 of the 5 were playoff teams last year, and then Notre Dame and Texas just missed the playoffs last year. There are fewer questions about any of those 5 teams in front of Indiana than there are about Indiana, and I think they're ranked like they might even be a little bit too high.
You could make a very compelling case that Miami should be ranked higher than IU.
Yeah.
I really do. And look, I've said all along, I think there's 7 teams in the country that can win the title, have a shot at winning the title. And those are the top 7 ranked teams right now in the AP. So you're there. Take care of your business.
I do love the fact that Courtney Cronin is crying about people taking shots at IU's pathetic non-conference schedule.
Seriously. You're
I'm glad that people on that show were actually calling it out, because you haven't heard enough of that, in my opinion. So.
Exactly.
All right, that's going to do it for tonight. Vince, good to see you as always.
Sir.
And we will see you later. And we've got South Bend Cubs baseball on the way. Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com.
Ba-boom.